What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Pedal Down 4x4. And if you remember from last week's episode, I forgot to plug in the mic, so we are doing another voiceover. We're just talking about alternators right now. If you're doing an engine swap, you need to hook up your alternator. So you're gonna have 3 pins. Depending on yours, you might have a 4-pin, but your 3 pins are basically gonna be your light, your ignition, and your sense wire. Now the ignition is gonna be your 12 volt. When you click the key on, that's going to send a 12 volt current to the light bulb that goes to your alternator, and then from there it's going to send out a signal, and that's going to be your sense wire to the if you ever look on top of in your fuse box, it'll say Alt-S. That's going to be your sense wire circuit, and that's pretty much it. That's all you have to do. You have to just hook up those wires, match wire colors. I mean, you can kind of see on the screen right now, the 4Runner has a yellow green for the light, a red with a black stripe on the ignition, and a white wire for the sense. You're going to look up your donor engine, whether it be a 3UZ V8, 2UZ V8, 5UZ 3.4 liter, 2RZ 2.4 liter, LS3, LS7, whatever it might be. You're just going to match those wires to your body that you're throwing that engine in. So you just need to get a diagram. It's very simple to do. Alright, so I wired up the alternator wires into the factory harness. I also ran the big positive cable from the battery to the alternator, so now the 4Runner does charge. Alright, so I skipped ahead a little bit in this video, and then you guys can see right here the truck is actually on. You can't really tell, but it is charging. It's charging at 14.1 volts. Also, since I've done this swap, I also did a GM diode mod, and all that does is you're putting a little GM diode which goes in place, or it goes in line with your alternator sense, and all that's going to do is it's going to show your alternator that you're charging actually lower than what you are, and that's going to bump the voltage up about half a volt. So that keeps your AGM batteries a lot happier, because the 4Runner was charging at idle about 13.1, and now it's charging around 13.5, 13.6 at idle, and then it'll go all the way up to like 14.5 on cold starts. Alright, so just like I said, we're still doing the whole voiceover thing. I pulled the radiator out of the 4Runner, and right now I was mocking up a fan. This was actually a big mistake. What I did was I just mounted it directly to the radiator. Big no-no, shouldn't have done that. As of right now, a few months later down the line, I've actually made a shroud, and I've bought a Mishimoto 1600 CFM fan. So this fan didn't cut it. Don't do this. It was kind of an experiment to me, because I've always told people do not mount your fan, but I've never actually done it to the radiator. I just always knew it was a bad idea, and I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and throw it on and see if it really is a bad idea. And I can tell you right now, it is a bad idea. The 4Runner kept getting really hot, so don't do that. Make a shroud. It was very difficult to fit in here. I had to get a real low profile fan, and I made a low profile shroud to cover the fan. So yeah, just don't do that. Just go ahead, do it the proper way. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys real quick. This is going to be what the fitment looks like. As you can see, there's really no room. So when I did make the shroud a few months later, I had basically zero room. The fan is about, I want to say, a ½ inch away from that main pulley that you guys can see in the video. So it's a very tight fit. I couldn't push the engine further back. If I did, I would have to cut into the firewall. Another option would be to put it on the front, but I didn't think about that. My mistake. I should have done that earlier, but I made a shroud instead. So I've also wired out my gauges as well, and the gauges are going to be a fuel pressure, coolant temperature, and oil pressure, and these are all hooked up. They're working just fine. Since then, I've actually removed the coolant temperature, because I have a scan gauge, and that shows me my coolant temp from the LS430's computer. And that's basically it for this video. I'm very sorry for how poor this video is. I don't know what else to do with this whole voice recording stuff. So in next week's episode, we actually take the 4Runner for a drive. So stay tuned for that. I will see you guys next week.